Hi everyone, welcome to Eve Talks It All. This is a new rebrand for my channel and the podcast that I'm going to be doing, which is going to be part of the TV Socialites Podcast Network. And how that's going to work, my friend Charlie and I, we are having two podcasts that complement each other, where we talk about some different things we want to talk about, and then we connect on things that we both want to talk about. And I also want to have video content to complement that as well. So it's not going to be the case of I film a video and then I just repeat the exact same audio for Spotify. It's going to be a mix and match of content. So stuff that I'm doing videos for, I'm doing something different for audio episodes and vice versa. So I hope that makes sense. I have a lot of different things that I want to go through. I am changing how I do book content a bit as well. So I will work out exactly how often I can upload, when I can upload, exactly how I will rotate this content. That's all coming. But ultimately, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to be doing. And yeah, it'll be good to get to do that and then to also do stuff with Charlie as well. So it's all going to be great. It's going to be good. I wanted to wear something different, but then I thought, you know what? This has 90 on it. We're going to be talking about something from the 90s. And I even have my hair how the characters wear it a lot of the time. So it makes perfect sense. Anyway, we are going to be looking at one of the most, if not the most, frustrating love triangles of all time. I think it was probably the first of its kind, at least in teen drama. I don't know, maybe soap operas had some more frustrating ones, I'm sure. But this one, we're going to be talking about Dylan McKay, Brenda Walsh, and Kelly Taylor from the original Beverly Hills 90210, the show that aired from 1990 to 2000. And how we're going to go about that, I'm going to be just going chronologically from season 1 to season 10. And we're gonna go from one relationship into the overlap, into the other one, voila. And there's not gonna be like a specific point system. It's just kind of like a bit of a deeper dive, a little bit of... I'm gonna try to stay as professional as possible, because I'm sure some of you may know that I absolutely adore one of the couples in the triangle and then despise the other. So if I look like I'm trying not to puke, that's probably why, but I will stay professional. So, without any further ado, actually, one last thing I will say, I might include some clips from the show, but if they do, it's going to be minimal, just because I don't want to spend 4 to 6 hours filming, then editing and all of that, only for the video to get taken down because of a 10-second clip. So just letting you know that I do want to put some clips in, but if I find that that's not working, then it won't happen. But anyway, now let's dive in. So Dylan McKay is kind of like a James Dean inspired character in the show. He's the bad boy, kind of, you know, the one that's gonna lead your baby girl astray, you know, charming smile, lots of baggage, lots of deep emotional things that lead to a tumultuous romance that is not always the best thing for you. We have a little bit of everything, really, and ultimately, who is the better girl for this guy? Maybe neither of them. Maybe he should be alone. That's also an option. So, season 1 is mainly focused on Brenda and Dylan, apart from a couple of moments, which I will touch up on. And if you see me flickering, it's just because I haven't watched this show in full in 15 years. So obviously some details are muddy. So I'm just using some wiki tabs to, you know, make sure that I'm factually correct while I'm talking my thoughts out to you guys. So when we start the show, it is immediately established, obviously, Brenda Walsh is kind of the audience surrogate. She gets pushed into this world of kids with parents who don't really care about them. They are kind of left to do their own thing. And she's kind of like a fish out of the water because her parents, they love her, and they do come across as a bit helicopter compared to the lack of parental guidance that the others don't get. And she is that, not necessarily a goody two-shoes, but she's definitely a bit sheltered and a bit naive when it comes to, her growing up and adapting into this world. And the thing is, obviously, she would be drawn to someone like Dylan because he's representing this side of being a teenager that she would like to explore. He's dangerous. He is exciting and charming, but of course there is always that kind of how should I say it, a lurking thought in the background of how much is too much when it comes to that danger and all those emotional turmoil issues. So Dylan is Brenda's brother's friend. They befriend each other, I think, in episode 2, and it's like a pretty quick friendship, but it's immediately established that Dylan has issues that he needs to work through. He doesn't have a good relationship with his father, and his mother is out of the picture, so immediately issues with parents. Got it. Good. Let's, clock that in. And he does a lot of surfing because that's meant to be relaxing, and he drives on his bike a lot, and Brenda's immediately smitten with him because, of course, I grew up alone as an only child, but I imagine that it's kind of a normal experience for a teenage girl who has like an older brother to have a crush on his friend. So, there's nothing wrong there. And they have like this super flirty and cute dynamic that is such a treat to watch on screen.
So you're Brandon's sister, huh?
Yeah, I'm Brandon's sister.
You have, in episode 8, Brenda kind of gets smitten with Dylan and wants to impress him, and she gets the impression that he prefers blondes, and she tries to dye her hair blonde at home, and she's like a really dark brunette, like full-on dark brown, and we can figure out where that went. Her hair was like bright orange, patchy, crisp. And the one thing that I do have to mention out of the two in regards to Dylan and Kelly this season, so that in the scene where Dylan and Brenda flirt at school by the lockers before she dyes her hair, Kelly looks kind of pissy that Dylan's paying attention to Brenda, but I think it's, in this scene at least, it's not so much of the fact that it's necessarily Dylan who is flirting with Brenda. It's more the fact that at this point in the show, Kelly's very dependent on male attention and validation, and therefore any guy who is prioritizing anyone but her in that way, she's going to be ticked off by that, and that's more to say about her than it has to say about anyone else. So they have like lots of flirting in that aspect, and it's really cute to watch. Like, their chemistry was so amazing. And then in episode 10, they finally decide to go on a date because the tension is just no longer, they're unable to handle it, right? So they go on a date, but then it pans out very, again, tumultuously. I keep saying that word because Dylan gets in an argument with his father. It's the case of, I remember the scene where they go back to the hotel room, I think it was, and Dylan argues with his father, and he gets so upset that I'm pretty sure he actually ends up smashing a vase, not like at Brenda or anything, but she's in the room, and obviously she gets scared and she walks off, and already that's not great. I mean, obviously I'm not going to defend that. He definitely has temper issues, and of course that's not to say that that would necessarily lead to abuse, but it's something that definitely needs to be looked at. So immediately, he's the one who's not exactly great for Brenda in that aspect, because there's a lot to work through here. And I remember the scene where they storm out of that apartment, hotel, whatever, and he's chasing Brenda, and they start arguing, and he says, he just gets to me, Brent. He always gets to me. And like Luke Perry's delivery was amazing in that scene. And they end up kissing, and it's all very theatrical, very spiced up, you know. Again, chemistry is great. And I think immediately it's the case of Brenda being how she grew up. She has that sort of almost like naturally soothing, calming presence around her. So, you know, again, it's using that trope of a good girl turning a bad boy good. And it's the case of, obviously, you know, we have that unspoken elephant in the room of, you know, it's not a woman's job to fix a man, of course. But at the same time, when you look at it from another lens, it is also really necessary for someone to have a support system that they feel they can rely on in terms of even being able to make those changes. And Brenda and Brandon's parents, they at first they're very hesitant of letting their son anywhere near both their children, for that matter, but especially Brenda, because of course they're worried about the bad influence. But over the course of the season, they definitely become almost like in a non-incestuous way surrogate family to Dylan, and he's always welcome in their house, and it provides him with that environment where he feels safe enough to potentially start working on some of those issues. And I'm not saying that it's up to Brenda to nurture him and all of that, because it's definitely not, but in a way she's kind of like his safe harbor, so that he, you know, he was a kid who was forced to grow up way too quickly. He is dealing with lots of things that he should have never had to deal with at such a young age. He even has a history of past substance abuse that Brenda doesn't seem to be fazed or judge him for. I would say that for someone who is a bit, again, not a goody two-shoes, but just a bit, you know, more reserved and a bit more, you know, naive how some families can live, she is quite understanding and non-judgmental and willing to give people a chance, which is a really good quality. And again, it's definitely something that Dylan needed at the time. So they spend a good part of the first season past that first date building their romance. I would say that they do have certain relationship struggles that are more akin to normal teenage couples, you know, like they flirt with other people, but it never crosses into cheating or anything, but it's the fact that they find other people attractive, and, you know, they're thinking, is that normal? Is that something that they need to, you know, squash? Is it shameful? And there's a spring break episode where Brenda starts feeling, I think it's episode 15, and Brenda starts feeling insecure about the fact that Dylan is, of course, more experienced, and they start kind of arguing about it, not in like a shouty way, but she tells him to stop talking and take off your clothes, basically, let's just do this and get it out of the way. And it's Dylan who says to her that, no, we're going to wait so that it is everything that you hoped for. And I think that, again, for teenagers who have either little experience in life or lots of emotional baggage, I think that they're handling their relationship in this season as maturely as possible, and they're learning to be with one another and support one another. And I think that, like I said, I think that at this time in Dylan's life, Brenda is, considering she's literally a 16 or 17-year-old girl who is having her first relationship, I think that she's doing a hell of a job managing it as maturely as possible at that age. And also she spends so much time with him and she cares for him. And again, to me at least, it doesn't read as anything unhealthy necessarily, even despite some of the troubles that Dylan's experiencing. It just reads that as a girl in love who wants to spend time with her boyfriend because she cares about him. And I would say that Dylan kind of is the one who struggles to give some emotional support to Brenda in episode 18, where she thinks that she may have breast cancer because they're doing this test the girls are testing out their breasts to find lumps, and Brenda finds a lump, and it turns out to be just like a little hormonal thing. But I think it's the case of he really wants to be there for her and help her, but he seems to be unable to even find the words, you know? I keep saying, you know, but because I'm trying to like have a bit of a chatty vibe while talking about this stuff, and it's again the case of him just not knowing literally how to be there for her and the right things to say, but it doesn't necessarily mean that he doesn't want to do those things. And before I get to their spring fling episode, which is like a big milestone in their relationship, I just wanted to mention, I kind of breezed past that episode, but we also had a bit of an incident with Brenda and Kelly that is definitely foreshadowing everything that's to come in season 3, because they're having a sleepover episode and they are kind of unveiling things about each other, and actually gets really dark because we find out some of Kelly's backstory, and even Brenda, she did something that again foreshadows what's gonna happen when she talks about how she more or less stole her friend's boyfriend, and then Kelly admits to Brenda that she asked Dylan out after they already started flirting, and I'm not sure if it was confirmed that it was exclusive or not, but it's just the fact that she did that. It definitely sets up the story and where it's gonna go at a certain point when it's time for it. So I just wanted to, you know, mention that. But so in the Spring Fling episode, we finally have Brenda and Dylan have sex together for the first time, and it's portrayed as a genuinely beautiful moment. We don't really see anything because the network would have never let that happen, but it's in the case of they go up to a room and then it, you know, cuts to a different scene, it's implied, and they are in the afterglow when we see them next, and they just look so happy to be together. And I think that again it was a beautiful moment for them. And a bit of behind the scenes is that what happens afterwards was dictated by the network, because back then it was 1991 and America was having a bit of a purity culture problem in the 90s, and you can see that in quite a few other shows. And the network essentially said to the writers, look, a teenage girl cannot have sex without a negative consequence. It just can't happen. So you have to write something for us to get the message across to teenagers to not have sex. Therefore, in the following episode, we actually get a false alarm that Brenda and Brandon and the whole family are going to move back to Minnesota from Beverly Hills. And Brenda and Dylan have some sad moments together trying to figure out how their relationship's going to work. And I think it's the case of, even in this super in love phase, they know that it's not likely that their relationship would actually last long distance, because let's be real, even adults, I can't think of many people who would have what it takes to survive a long-term, long-distance relationship. And the network thing that I was talking about, so the season 1 ends with a cliffhanger that Brenda is late, that her period's late. So we're meant to think that she's pregnant. That was her consequence for daring to have sex with her loving boyfriend. We love purity culture, right? So at the beginning of season 2, I would say that this season has pretty much next to no Dylan and Kelly. So again, it's just very much on him and Brenda. However, by the end of the season, we really start getting that beginning of the end feel in their relationship, but we'll get to that. So basically, the first third of the season, in the first episode, Brenda finds out that she's not pregnant. It was just a false scare, but it intimidates her enough to want to break things off with Dylan. And obviously, you could say, okay, well, she can't be the perfect partner for him if she just dumped him, but I would say that it is a very reasonable reaction for her to do that. I mean, she is still like 16, 17-ish around that time. She had a major pregnancy scare after her first time. It's going to feel all sorts of again, complicated things that just, again, teenagers, it's normal. I don't think that it would make Brenda a bad partner to, in long term, I don't think that it makes her a bad partner and a bad choice for Dylan to want to take a break after this. I think that obviously Dylan takes it really hard because Brenda has become his solace and his companion, and he got really attached to her, which, again, considering his backstory, it makes complete sense. But obviously it's the case of, we understand your pain and you're completely allowed to feel that pain, but it doesn't mean that what Brenda decided was wrong or that she should feel guilty for that decision, because Dylan gets injured shortly after the breakup and they end up reconciling super briefly, but then Brenda decides, no, actually, no, this is not what I need right now, and they break up for a thing. Again, he's the one who's not being very nice to her, in a sense of he starts drinking again, substance abuse, he relapses, and yes, it is caused by Brenda's dumping him, but at the same time, it's not Brenda's fault. Ultimately, he has a history of substance abuse, and it is not her responsibility to make sure that he stays sober, and if she's his only cusp of sanity in his battle for sobriety, then that's not a good thing either. But they have this camping trip as a group, and because he's drunk, unbeknownst to anyone else, he is horrible to her throughout the whole trip, saying that he feels rejected by her when she tries to be friendly with him, and she is still showing that she cares about him and wants to be there for him, just that she doesn't want to be in a relationship with him right now, and he reacts really badly to it. And yeah, it's definitely not his brightest moment, but obviously it's colored by all these different layers because he is using again. And Brandon helps him with that so he can seek out proper help. So it doesn't take them that long to get back together after that. They get back together, I believe, on season 2's episode 7 or 8. Something along those lines. So they spend like good 7 episodes broken up, I think. So about a quarter of a season. And they get back together because Dylan kind of starts like dating around this biker girl, and Brenda gets super jealous and she realizes that, no, actually, I want to be with Dylan. And they don't have the happiest of reunions because shortly afterwards, Dylan starts drinking again because his mother arrives to town. So yes, you could argue that Brenda spends a lot of time being there for Dylan and supporting him and everything, but at the same time, again, she kind of knew what she signed up for, in a sense that, she knew his history and she chose to get back together with him. But obviously, it's also the case of Dylan needs to sort his shit out and get better coping mechanisms and actually seek out help. And it's not Brenda's responsibility to be his sobriety coach or sponsor or anything like that. No one says anything about that. And the fact that Brenda is not afraid to go to Dylan's mother herself and say to her that your abandonment of your son is what drove him to this and you should feel ashamed of yourself. I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember her exact phrasing, but the way that she's willing to stand up for him, honestly, she goes above and beyond for this guy, I would say. And you could even argue that a lot of the time he probably doesn't deserve it, especially when the whole love triangle thing happens. And I mean, again, not a lot of partners would have the balls to stand up to their partner's parents. So I really admire her for that. And then we have a pretty, I would say, after this gets resolved and Dylan seeks out help properly again, and Brenda tries to get his mom to actually, stop being a deadbeat mom, they do get to have a bit of a period in season 2, kind of like middle to the later half, where they are actually allowed to just be a happy couple and enjoy themselves and have a good time. And you see them going on dates and also spending a lot of time in their friend group, and they're just kind of living, laughing, loving. They are having some nice time with Brenda and Brandon's family and the parents as well. He spends a lot of time there, again, like a surrogate family in a way. And they dress up together for Halloween, which is very un-Dylan-like, because he's not the sort of guy to go for like costuming or anything like that, but he does it for Brenda, and they seem to have a blast. They dress up as Bonnie and Clyde, which I think is very telling from the writers, because obviously I don't remember the exact history, but I think that, quote me if I'm wrong, but I do think from what I've heard about that couple, it was that Clyde was the instigator and Bonnie kind of followed him. So in a way, maybe the writers were trying to like symbolize that Dylan is the one who's eventually going to corrupt Brenda or whatever. I don't know. But they're just having a blast at the party. And they support each other when a member of their group, Scott, accidentally shoots himself and dies. It's all... I would say they are, again, acting very supportive and mature of each other throughout these episodes. It's going really well for them. And they try to spend some time culturing themselves. They go to art classes, they go to theaters and all of that. Brenda is there with Dylan when he decides that he wants to go to visit his father in prison. I mean, they're really solid and really good with each other and for each other at this time. They are there for each other, and it seems that all the stuff that they went through that I described, it really matured their relationship in a good way. So they have these really cute dates on Valentine's Day where they give blood together, and Dylan opens up where he got a scar on his body, and they really seem to become like really solid, like I keep saying. And then they hit a bit of a snag when a friend of Dylan's turns back up into town, and once again they start kind of getting a bit drawn to other people. But I think that is a very teenage thing, and obviously it's a drama thing, it's a show still, so they're gonna think of something to pull them apart. But ultimately, I think the catalyst for what starts making their relationship go downhill is actually the fact that one night when Brenda's working at Peach Pit, which is the gang's hangout, she is working and closing up, and she actually ends up being held at gunpoint, which must be so terrifying. And Dylan comforts her about it because she's having proper PTSD over it, and it's the case of I think that Brenda wants to latch onto Dylan now, so in a way they're kind of becoming each other's crutches. But this is actually where their relationship gets a bit I would say a little bit codependent in that sense, because she's spending a lot of time with him and she only seems to want to hang out with him and whatnot. But I think it's the case of she experienced some trauma that no one else is really equipped to help her deal with. But then again, this is what leads us to the beginning of the end, as I personally like to call it, because these events cause the love triangle. Like, they set it up for it being able to start. So what Brenda's parents are not happy that she's spending that much time with Dylan at his house alone, because of course she's still a 17-year-old. It's not exactly what every parent would dream of, to have their daughter out at all hours. And the case is that Brenda misses curfew after her parents are already mad at her, and because of that, they were originally going to let her go to Baji, which is in Mexico, with Dylan for a weekend, but because she's already on thin ice with them, they actually revoke their permission. However, Brenda decides to go anyway, and she gets that covered up. I don't remember exactly how. I suppose she says that she's staying at Kelly's or something, Donna's, whatever. So the way that she gets caught is that they get stopped at border control and she forgot her passport. And her parents have to come and get them. And they're not happy about it. And looking back on it now that I'm nearly 30, I can completely understand why they're mad, because she was already acting out and she lied to them. And the way that they see it, this is the guy that's turning their daughter into someone they have no idea. They don't know this person. And the season, they're still together, but you can already tell there are cracks forming in their relationship, because Dylan gets essentially kind of disowned by the Walshes. Brenda's father says that he doesn't care to have him over at the house anymore, and you can really tell that it affects Dylan on a deeper level, because obviously they become such a source of support for him, and knowing that he's no longer able to have that, it stings. And when we get into season 3, we are now at the season where the love triangle blossoms, unfortunately. But like I said, I'm gonna try to stay biased, because going through all of this, it's also apparent that this couple is not perfect either, even though I still love them. So again, I'm staying professional. But ultimately, so we start the season with Brenda acting out even more, to the point where she actually moves in with Dylan. And I think that it's the case of she is definitely clinging on to him, but also part of her is kind of just acting out, because she is having some kind of she's acting out to her parents as well. And it's like teenage rebellion, some would say, and whatnot. It is frustrating to watch in a way, because everyone is just acting like an idiot, I would say. But ultimately, I can see where Brenda's parents are coming from, especially now, because as a teenager, I was like, oh my god, just shut the fuck up and let them be together. But at the same time, naturally, of course, you wouldn't be happy if your daughter lied when fuck knows where across the border with her boyfriend, and I was living with said boyfriend. So in a way, I mean, I wish that my parents punished me like that. So they decide, you know what's gonna help Brenda to recenter herself? A trip to Paris with Donna for the summer. And this is where things start with Dylan and Kelly. So I will try to be very clear with the timeline, and then we will go into the overlap. Because I think if this side is Brenda, this side is Kelly. I think I'm gonna do some borders and stuff in editing. But yeah, so we're into overlap now. So basically how this is, Dylan is sick and tired of having to fight to be with Brenda. And you could argue that he is giving up too easily, but at the same time, obviously, if you're feeling like it's the whole world against you, eventually you're gonna get exhausted. And I think that a lot of it has to do with the fact that obviously he was rejected from the Walsh household as a surrogate family member, and this really affected him. And I think in a way he's leaning back towards his worst impulses, and because of this, so Dylan and Brenda don't break up. That is the point. That's what I'm saying. That's what pisses me off so much about the other couple. So they don't break up, but they say that they're going to kind of take some time from each other and go minimal contact while Brenda's in Paris. And Dylan is staying back. And the thing is, it was originally Kelly and Donna that were meant to go, right? But the reason Brenda's going is because Kelly had a new baby sister being born. Well, yeah, I mean, I guess living, but you know what I mean. Her mother and her new husband, she had a baby. They had a baby together, and obviously it's Kelly's half sister, and she bonded with her so much over the past few days, weeks, that she decided, you know what, I want to stay and spend the summer with my baby sister. Because I think she also has a lot of family issues, which I'm going to get to in a second. So basically, this is how we set it up. Brenda off to France for, I think it's like 2 months. Like almost the whole summer. Because I think when this whole shebang started happening, we were already in the summer. But it's the case of, I think it was like June, July. So definitely like nearly 2 months gone. And Dylan and Kelly are left in Beverly Hills alone to their devices, because everyone else is kind of, Donna's also not there, and everyone else, Brandon, Steve, David, are just doing their own thing. How do I put this? So obviously in season 1 we have those moments of Kelly that I described, and I think she admits that she always had a little crush on Dylan, but then she got fixated. I mean, she was together with Steve for a while, and then she got a bit fixated on Brandon, and then she was trying to find herself, so, you know, a little bit of a pick-me behavior there, but whatever. I said I would try to be professional. So anyway, Dylan and Kelly, I would say, I don't have many positive things to say about them when I'm talking about them normally, but for the sake of this video, what they do have in common a lot, and what they do share an understanding for in a way that not even him and Brenda do, is their families. And it's the way that Dylan, obviously, we already said what he struggles with, and Kelly's family, I mean, she was essentially forced upon to have a new stepdad and stepbrother, David. I mean, they get along really well, and it turns out to be a nice family unit, but her mother also has substance abuse issues. So my point is that Kelly knows about some harsher realities of life, and she's been through some shit herself, like her assault, multiple ones actually, but that's unfortunately besides the point. So anyway, I say unfortunately, but it's not the point of this video to talk about Kelly and her many traumas. However, what I'm saying here is that she definitely can understand him without immediately feeling like she needs to fix the problem. And again, does that make her a better partner than Brenda? I mean, not necessarily. I don't think so. I think that it's definitely very different when it comes to how both of them understand Dylan, because obviously Brenda has never been through these things, and Kelly has in some ways. But at the same time, when two people like that, when two damaged people get together, it is, well, they can definitely make a whole out of their broken pieces, but a lot of the time as well, you just have two people that are given into their worst impulses being together because they feed off each other and their tendencies. And I think that we definitely got a lot of the latter with these two personally. I would say that just in general, I personally cannot condone a relationship, fictional or real life, that started in cheating. And ultimately, Dylan was cheating on Brenda the whole time, and it's made even worse by the fact that Kelly is Brenda's best friend. And it doesn't matter that they didn't sleep together at that time during that summer. It doesn't matter. It was the fact that they were spending all this time together, and the emotional intimacy that they shared. It was, at the time, a lot more than what Dylan was given to Brenda. And obviously, yeah, it's the fact that Brenda, while she was in France, she went out on one date with this guy, but I think they shared a pack and she realized that, no, this is wrong, I'm with someone. And if you were to measure these things, one of them is arguably a lot worse than the other. I would say that that's definitely the case. So, just wanted to clarify, so I did have a bit of a read. So while Brenda and Rick physically only shared a peck, she did develop some feelings for him, but I just thought I needed to double check that. So that I don't upload it with the facts wrong. So basically, while she's doing that, Dylan and Kelly it's actually Kelly who doesn't want to hurt Brenda, who says that this was just a fling and this was wrong. And it's Dylan who's basically saying all those ties are severed, let's just do this. And Kelly has to tell him no. So I actually think that Dylan in a way is lashing out at Brenda for her parents rejecting him. And again, it's not Brenda's fault. Like, this whole thing is just a mess. But obviously, you can't blame Brenda's parents for reacting the way they did to everything. Like I said, that happened. And ultimately, again, it shows that Dylan still has a lot of work to do to grow up and to be a better person. And again, you could even argue, is he the right guy for both these women? You know, again, like I said, we're looking at all angles here. And Brenda as well, she realizes that, yes, she had these feelings, however superficial they were, for another guy. And even though she's happy to get back together with Dylan, now she can sense the distance that he has from her. Because before she left, she was very unaware of the fact that he's already been pulling away from her, which led to the affair with Kelly. But now she's kind of like, she is sensing that something's not right. So basically what I'm saying is that this is not to insult Kelly in any way. I have my issues with her character, quite a lot of them. But I think it's the fact that at this point in the show, Dylan, he does not want to deal with anything too complicated. He wants something easy and available to him on his terms. He doesn't want to do the push and pull. He doesn't want to have to fight for something that's not coming easy to him. And that again stems from his issues with his family as well. And again, for the lack of a better term, Kelly is there and she's available for Dylan to be with as he wants it, whenever he wants it. And that's what he needs right now. He doesn't want what could be considered right or like a better suited option. He wants easy. And again, I'm not calling Kelly easy in a slut shaming way. I'm just saying that, again, she cheated with a person who is her best friend's boyfriend. You know, she did it to validate her own feelings and to, you know, whatever else, whatever other reasons. And then we get into the bit that infuriates me the most. So obviously I'll get through that because I think that this doesn't really have much merit in the sense of who's the better partner for Dylan, but obviously it's necessary to talk about how this whole thing unfolds. Dylan and Brenda are still together for about 6 episodes, because Brenda returns, I think, in episode 6 of season 3, and like the whole affair is in the first 6 episodes of the season 3. And they spend like the next 6 or so episodes kind of trying to be happy together, but also arguing. And it is Dylan who is kind of trying to push Brenda away, almost trying to sabotage the relationship while Brenda's still hanging on. And they have this discussion about college because Brenda obviously has big plans where she wants to study. And Dylan says to not plan. He basically tells her, don't plan your future around me and whether we're together. And she gets really angry at her dad for being happy about it, but he says that he's not, but that you guys can't lie to yourselves that you are very different people. And again, to me, that strikes that it's Dylan that at this point, he still loves Brenda, but at the same time, it's like he can no longer be bothered. He wants something different, which is Kelly in this case. But Brenda is still... Obviously, she did have that thing with Rick, the guy in France, but she's still giving it her all, and she's still trying to make this work. And again, does that make her a good partner? Maybe she doesn't realize that it's time to let something go. I mean, I don't necessarily see it like that. I just see it. She loves Dylan, and of course she doesn't want to let that go to waste. And I think that the whole argument about colleges, it does send her, like, it sends a bit of a wake-up call into her brain, thinking that, wait, I'm not reading this situation correctly. Something is not right. And so basically, they still attend some events together, but Dylan really looks like he doesn't want to be there. Like you said, it's the case of he is emotionally checked out of this relationship. And like I said, I don't think that he wants to be the bad guy and dump Brenda himself. Like, it's almost like he's trying to drive her to do it. And I think that for what it's worth, she meets Rick again at Beverly Hills, and she decides, I'm not going to go into detail on that because it's not super relevant, but what comes of it, she decides that actually she wants to see what else is out there because this is no longer working. And Dylan actually seems a bit hurt by that, but also kind of indifferent, but he very quickly turns mean to Brenda. It's very, like, I don't know how to describe it, but it's like he wanted this to happen, but is also still annoyed that it happened. But immediately after Brenda dumps him, he goes to Kelly and they start making out and all that, so, that's great. But yeah, if anything, like I said, it's Dylan that's not coming across looking well in this situation. But again, I think that Brenda, I think it's the case of, obviously it's not perfect, but she realized that she had feelings for someone else, and she made the decision to break up with Dylan. Yeah, it took her a bit of push and pull, but ultimately she decided, wait, I'm not gonna be this person. If I'm not happy with someone anymore, I will let them know and we can end things. That's the mature decision. So I still think that even at their worst, she is still being as good of a partner as she can be. So, if anything, it is Dylan who is completely at fault for how he handles everything at this point onwards. So, then Dylan pushes Kelly to go out. If anything, she's the one trying to be considerate of Brenda's feelings. Well, I guess, a bit too late to be considerate if you're pulling shit like this. But I guess, at least she's trying. But Dylan's the one who's like, let's go out. And they run into each other. Dylan, Kelly, Brenda, and the Rick guy, they run into each other as they're leaving their respective dates. And Brenda just goes berserk and calls Kelly horrible names, a slut, whatever. And Dylan kind of gets a bit upset over seeing Brenda with another guy, so Kelly notices that, and then they have an argument, and then Dylan leaves town for an episode, and I'm not going to go into detail about that, but essentially what we get into afterwards is them having like a weird, not like a throuple situation, although you could argue that would have solved a lot of problems. What they end up doing is Brenda and Kelly say that because they both want to be with Dylan, but they don't want to hurt each other, they're gonna just be friends, and then it implodes really quickly because Dylan kisses both of them on the same day. I mean, come on. And basically what happens is that the girls ask Dylan to be the one to make a choice of who to spend New Year's Eve with, and that's meant to be like the final choice. And Dylan is feeling trapped by this, and he confides in Brandon, and Brenda and Kelly seem to have reconciled their friendship, and it's basically they put the pressure on him to do the choosing, and he's actually struggling. So this is obviously, as I'm talking through this, you are seeing that the summer affair is nowhere to be mentioned, right? As far as Brenda knows, Dylan and Kelly just went out after she dumped him, and it's still a bit scummy that Kelly went in there right away, but she doesn't know anything. And that's a big factor, because we finally get to New Year's, and Dylan invites everyone to a party that his dad is throwing because he's been released from prison, and he's throwing this party. And Brenda says that she can't go because her parents won't let her, but it's actually she's relieved not to go because she found out from her father that Dylan's father obviously has mob connections because he spent time in prison and all that, and Brandon's relieved to not be there as well. Again, he's not relevant right now, but Kelly obviously goes, and this is the scene that infuriates me because Dylan and Kelly share a moment at the pool.
I'm full of good ideas.
Oh, I bet you are.
Don't do it unless you mean it.
I mean it.
And they're alone at this party, and Dylan tells Kelly, you guys made me choose, which is stupid. I want you. I always wanted you, which is a complete and utter lie. And how I'm reading this, the way that I'm reading it is that Dylan, like I said, he still has a lot of growing up to do, and it's never been more evident than in this season. And to be fair, it doesn't get much better for a while. It's the case of he doesn't want to make decisions. He wants things decided for him. And honestly, the way that I'm seeing things, I don't really think that it would have mattered who showed up at the party or who got to him first. He would have told the same thing to either girl. It was just the matter of, again, Kelly was available and was there, and she's the one who sought him out. And Brenda, she needed to be fought for, and at this point Dylan no longer wanted to do that. And again, does it make either of the girls more right for this guy ultimately? I mean, I don't know what you're thinking right now, but the way that I'm seeing at the moment, even though Kelly has a lot to answer for, they both could do better. Because as far as I'm concerned, how could you feel confident in your relationship knowing that barely 6 months ago, the guy that you're hooking up with was swearing up and down that your best friend is the love of his life? I'm just saying I would not feel very secure, and you'll see what I mean. So then we get the big confrontation. Dylan is rejecting Brenda's attempts to spend time together, and Dylan and Kelly then invite her out for a walk and tell her of their summer affair. And they both seem so unapologetic and just basically telling her to get the fuck over and deal with it.
Summer, while you were in Paris.
Look, I told you this with the girl, right? Kelly was the girl.
Not in those words, but yeah, it's not great. They don't come across great in that scene. If I were Brenda, I'd never have spoken to them again, just like she said she wanted to. And then we get the unpleasant fallout of the whole thing, and I always say that it infuriates me how Brenda was essentially forced to either deal with it and deal with being around these two people who betrayed her as a couple, or basically be forced out of the friend group because everyone, including her own brother, put Dylan and Kelly first. But I think that is more of a behind the scenes thing, because at that point I think that Shan Doherty was already starting to piss people off, and they were trying to like put Brenda on the side burner and see what they wanted to do with it. So that is a whole other thing. But we do spend that time in season 3 just seeing where this is going to take them, and Brenda trying to get over the hurt, and I don't think she ever fully gets over it, which, by the way, I think that's perfectly understandable. But she's still, the fact that she tries to forgive them and tries to be their friend and talk to them again, that's way more mature than I would be. I would be like, snip, 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 cut out, forever, bye, bitch. That would be me. But again, so the thing where we get Brenda and Dylan to finally start being even civil again to each other. So Dylan's father gets murdered. Because of course that's completely normal to happen in the show. I mean, that's meant to be like, these are meant to be the seasons where the show's a bit more grounded. Apparently not. Fuck that, I guess. But Brenda, she does take some time to tell Dylan that he could come and stay with them, because at this point, even though it's definitely not the same and it's not going to be the same ever again, the Walshes do still care about him. And Brenda does comfort Dylan despite her own heartbreak and anger at him for cheating on her, which, like I said, I think the way that Dylan cheated on Brenda is worse than the other way around for many reasons. But anyway, I already said that. So the important thing is that even in her heartbreak, even in the worst moment, being so angry with him, Brenda still comforts him and lets him be vulnerable with her and spends that time listening to him, which, I mean, she already shows so much grace and so much heart in that moment that ultimately, I mean, it definitely puts her up there, because who would have the grace to do that within themselves? Not me. Just to wrap up, Brenda supporting Dylan after his dad's murder. I think that it's obviously a way for them to, get back to good graces with each other, but also the case of, it's immediately shown that for all their passion and attraction to each other and their shared trauma bonding, ultimately Kelly doesn't seem to be emotionally mature enough to actually be there for Dylan, and she spends a lot of her time actually focusing on her own stuff instead of helping him grieve, which already to me personally is not a great sign of a long-term partner, and a sign that their relationship, it doesn't bode well, is what I'm saying. And obviously, again, what I described with Brenda feeling more and more alienated from the group when everyone's just, again, choosing Dylan and Kelly, and kind of just Brenda's just there. She's, not having a great time. And Dylan focuses on Kelly and her eating disorder and all that. Again, the fact that he's helping her through that while also dealing with his own grief is already, I would say, showing some signs of his, whatever the fuck is going on in his head, mellowing out a bit. But either way, Brenda and Dylan share an emotional scene at the prom where they dance to recall their time at the spring fling 2 years earlier, and then realizing that ultimately they're not over each other, which is actually wild to say considering that Dylan is still with Kelly, so, quit playing games with my heart. And again, you can still feel that disconnect that they now have after everything that's happened, because Brenda is trying to insinuate that she's planning to actually study at the University of Minnesota and move back and leave because she doesn't feel like she actually has any friends here anymore, but Dylan's not picking up on it. And definitely after Brenda tells Dylan that she's doing this, going back to Minnesota, they have some intense moments reflecting on their relationship, and it seems like there's definitely still a lot of pain there, but the anger sort of dissipated, and there's definitely still that lingering desire, because they almost kiss, but they get interrupted by his mom visiting. And again, it shows that they definitely still love each other, but they're just confused and messed up, and it's very, very complicated, but they acknowledge that a lot of things that happened in their relationship, they were very dramatic for their age, which I think is a mature thing to say. We again get, ironically, even though Dylan and Kelly are the ones who are together throughout all of season 4, we get some of the best moments with Dylan and Brenda. And Brenda tries to go back to Minnesota at the beginning of season 4 and pick up back where she left from her old life, but she discovers that 3 years is a long time when you're a teenager, and that everyone else has moved on, like all her old friends, there's no room there either for her. So she decides, you know what, she's going to go back to California, and both her and Dylan actually end up bailing on college registration because they're both feeling very apathetic about it, and they share some, probably like their first genuine moments of connection since season 2, where they actually start again understanding each other on that level that they used to. And it's super hilarious to me because even though technically Dylan and Kelly, they broke up over the summer, but then they seem to have reconciled, but Dylan would be completely fine binning Kelly off and being with Brenda again. I think it's like episode 3 or 4 of season 4, and she actually is the one to tell him no, saying that, no, we just reached a good point where we're good friends to each other. I don't want to risk that by entering another romance with you, which, by the way, I think is, again, very mature. And again, I think that it's good for both of them, and I think the fact that she didn't agree to give it another shot at this point in life, I think that is good. I think it's good for both of them, even though I would have loved that over having to suffer through a season of Dylan and Kelly, but whatever, it's fine. It's okay. I'm a professional. Sorry, so I'm just having a look at the Vicky for Dylan and Kelly, and it's significantly lesser. So clearly, like, the formatting makes no sense either. So clearly whoever did the Beverly Hills Vicky was a fan of Dylan and Brenda, because theirs is a lot more detailed. But we are basically... So anyway, my makeshift tripod-y book thing decided that fuck me, I guess, and my jumper got caught on something and everything went down. So if the camera angle is different, that's why. I'm doing the best that I can. But anyway, we're not gonna be here for much longer because there's not massively that much to say for multiple reasons. So, like I said, Dylan and Brenda rejects him, and the thing is, Dylan and Kelly are together for the rest of the season, but it's not a happy situation because they actually spend the most of the season arguing and making up and having sex, and then arguing again, making up, having sex. That's literally all that they do all season, and they just seem to be completely unable to talk about any of their issues because we have Kelly's very into college life. She wants to do everything while Dylan doesn't really give a shit about any of that. She gets annoyed at him over that. They argue about it. Then Kelly has doubts about this new, there's this newfound half-sister that this woman says, I had a thing with your father all them years ago. This is your sister. Kelly is suspicious of that, and she proves to be correct. There's definitely bad shit happening there, but the way that she handles it, Dylan just completely shuts her out, and she gets annoyed at him, and again, lots of stuff there, and it's just also the fact that she gets... This is the season where her friendship with Brenda goes down the toilet because she gets super... she gets super insecure about Brenda even spending time with Dylan in any way. Like, I think one time she came over to talk about something and there was no sexual tension whatsoever. And Kelly threw a massive fit at it. And it's like, I can see why you're doing this because you're feeling insecure, because ultimately it's how you get them, that's how you lose them. And obviously you've got this guy through cheating. So naturally you're going to look over your shoulder your whole relationship worrying that he's gonna cheat with you on you with someone else, is what I meant to say. Maybe the same person that he cheated on with you, you know. So it's that thing. And again, they do break up at the end of season 4 because of all of this, her insecurities, her inability to kind of tune into what he's feeling, and the chemistry and the sex is not enough to maintain it. And Brenda and Dylan actually briefly reconcile, but unfortunately because Shannon Doherty was written out of the show, we're never gonna know how that would have gone down.
I won't be gone forever, Dylan.
But the thing is that the woman with the kid who she said was Dylan's sister, this woman is a con artist, and Dylan got scammed out of all of the trust fund money that he got back in season 3 from his father, and he relapses really bad. Like, this is probably his worst relapse yet. He spends most of season 5 being a complete mess. And Kelly, in the meantime, is with a Brandon of all people, and they actually have a whole love triangle on their own. And I'm not gonna dive into this love triangle because that's not what we're on about here. But bottom line is that we spend all of season 5, Kelly's technically with Brandon, but is still leaning on Dylan, and then Dylan has a dream of her in a previous life and is convinced that they're soulmates. Like, there's like a full-on thing. And again, we don't know if that's how stuff would have worked out or if he would have gone back with Brenda, but obviously because Shannon Doherty's no longer in the show, we can't assume anything. And again, it's like behind the scenes thing affecting storylines in the show. It is what it is. And like I said, I'm not discussing which guy is better for Kelly. This is not what this is about, but ultimately, the way that I see it, Kelly was fine breaking up with Dylan, and she was happy with Brandon, but she only started leaning on Dylan when she needed support. Again, trauma bonding and all that, right? So the way that I see it, it really doesn't make for good relationship. And not to mention, again, I know this is television and we have to, you know, accept that there's always going to be that sort of drama, especially in relationship drama themed shows. That's their bread and butter. But I just don't see how you can claim that someone is your soulmate and the love of your life and all of that, and then constantly be pushed and pulled and attracted to other people and wanting to be with other people. The way that I see it, if you're soulmates and the love of each other's lives and you're meant to be together, oh hey, oh my god. Oh. Sorry, my dog was gazing at me and I could not resist. Oh, I love you too. That's my baby, man. So anyway, I'm still fussing him, but anyway, what I am saying is that I just don't think that if you're meant to be this perfect couple who are meant to be together, I don't think that you're constantly gonna feel drawn to bone other people. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. And then in season 5, at the end of season 5, we have basically in Gossip Girl at the end of season 4, when we have the moment where Serena apologizes to Nate and Dan and says, I need to choose me. This is where they took that moment from, because Kelly gets basically invited by Dylan to travel the world, and Brandon also promises her something, but then she says, yeah, I choose me. I need to focus on me. So yeah, Serena is the Kelly Taylor of the 2000s. More or less. I said what I said. Anyway, so basically that seems to be that. However, she's still jealous when Dylan meets and falls in love with this girl, Antonia. And she is killed he actually marries her. He goes as far as marrying this girl, and she's killed on their wedding night because her father is a mafia boss and he actually wanted to kill Dylan, but Antonia went to get something with his car and she was wearing his jacket and the hitman thought it was her. That's what I mean. It gets very soap opera later on. And that's in mid-season 6. And Dylan actually leaves the show for 3 seasons, right? So that's why I mean that this video is not going to be any much longer, because you can't really talk about a character relationship when only one person out of this triangle is now in the show. So Kelly spends the rest of her time until mid-season 9, where Dylan comes back, wrapped up in her romance with Brandon. So I'm not going to talk about them. But what I mean is that once Dylan leaves, and he actually reunites with Brenda in London, where that's how she got written off. Shannon Doherty, how she got written off. Brenda went to London to do acting, and she stayed there. So Dylan goes to live with her, and they reconcile for a while. However, because that was completely off screen and only mentioned in a few sentences, I can't really say anything about that. But I just think the fact that they reconciled at all shows that clearly, like I said, I'm sorry, but I can't see Dylan and Kelly being this love story for the ages when he still carries a torch for other people as well. I'm just saying, again. So basically, even though Kelly is enwrapped with Brandon, like I said, just brushing up on some facts. So yeah, she still reminisces about Dylan, but she is fully intent on marrying Brandon, and they end up not going through with it in season 9 because Jason Priestley also leaves the show. Which, by the way, could we just acknowledge how mental that is? That the show started with Shannon Doherty and Jason Priestley as these, and yeah, I think they're meant to be twins. Yeah, twin brother, sister, whatever. So anyway, brother, sister. the show starts with them. It's about them. It's about their journey adapting to this life in Beverly Hills from Minnesota. And by the end of the show, neither of them are there. Like, the last 2 seasons of the show literally don't have 2 of their main characters anymore. It's mental. Even Shannon Doherty's replacement, Valerie, played by Tiffany Amber Thiessen, even she leaves. And she gets replaced by someone else. So it's like a replacement of a replacement. That's mental. So I really think that they thought that by bringing Luke Perry back, they would get something. And what we get is more Dylan and Kelly. And obviously they are both very jaded now as adults. They are very changed people. And ultimately, I mean, I would say that if this whole love triangle bullshit didn't happen with Brenda, I probably wouldn't mind them in this version, like their season 9 to 10 selves, even though obviously it's not Dylan's fault at all, but it doesn't change the fact that Kelly was going out to meet him because he was going to relapse, because like he's relapsed again and she's also going through a rough time. So again, more trauma bonding for these characters. And basically Kelly goes to meet him and she is attacked by a man in a back alley and she is assaulted by this man sexually. And obviously it's not Dylan's fault, but she was going to meet him and he feels guilty about that. And again, a lot of season 10 is yet another kind of triangle because Dylan is kind of in a relationship with Brenda's replacement, and then Kelly's engaged to someone else. This girl just loves being engaged to people, honestly. But yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna go into that triangle, but she spends like a lot of time with this guy Matt, and eventually decides, you know what, I want to be with Dylan. So basically, Kelly and Dylan reunite on the last episode of the show, is what I meant to say, on the finale. And I'm pretty sure that they actually reunite, and the final shot of the show is that the camera pans out and they're at a wedding of David and Donna, and everyone's happy and dancing and all together like that. And that's pretty much it. So they end the original show together, and they are broken up in the sequel reboot of 90210 that airs in 2009 it started 2008, sorry. So it's set 8 years after the original show ended. Kelly and Dylan had a son, but they are estranged. They broke up, and her and Brenda, because both the actresses reprised their roles, they talk about and reminisce about everything. And a lot of the fans who love Dylan and Kelly, they don't consider the reboot canon just for the fact that they broke them up in the reboot. But honestly, again, this is not me saying this because I don't like this couple. Like, I still don't. I haven't talked through all of this out. My feelings haven't changed. But it's the case of, I just don't think that ultimately these two people are built for a healthy relationship together because they've gone through so much shit, and ultimately I do think that they have a tendency to feed into each other's worst instincts and their trauma and their vices and everything. And that is pretty much it on both couples. So who is better for Dylan McKay, Brenda or Kelly? Well, I think that it depends how you look at it and when you look at it, because I would say that as far as I'm concerned, when they were teenagers, Brenda is definitely the better choice for him because they just seem to have such a mature and understanding relationship, even if it was a bit out there with the drama sometimes, at such a young age. And Brenda seems to be what he needs, whereas Kelly seems to be, in a way, almost, again, he's making his own choices. She's not forcing him, but he seems to almost like turn into his worst self when he's around her as a teenager. And obviously, again, we're never going to know how things would have panned out and ended had both Shannon Doherty and Luke Perry stayed on the show all 10 seasons. And it is really hard to talk about a character who was missing for a third of a show in his character development, because obviously he does so much back and forth in the first 5.5 seasons, and then he leaves for 3 years, and then when he comes back, I mean, it doesn't seem like he gets much development in the sense, and he seems kind of just sort of stuck in the perpetual cycle of his trauma and his vices and his pain and relapsing into substance abuse and all that. And I do think that, for what it's worth, I think that as adults, like their season 9 post the show selves, I think I can imagine Dylan and Kelly being those people who they keep coming back to each other and keep giving it another shot, and it never works, but they never can quite shake each other off. So I will give that to people. Does that mean that she's a better partner for him as an adult? I do think that ultimately they are more alike as adults, and the things that they went through, I think that they can definitely share each other's pain and share each other's trauma. But again, is trauma bonding a good material for a relationship? Well, I don't know. But I think that as far as adult Brenda goes, I think that she would not really want to deal with Dylan if he's still the same old. However, throwing a little bit of a spanner in the works. So remember that girl that I talked about who unfortunately got murdered by that whole situation in season 6? I actually think that had it not worked out that way, she would have been the perfect woman for Dylan, because yeah, their relationship was quite fast-paced, but they just seemed to have genuine chemistry and love and understanding, you know, and Dylan was happier with her than probably with both Brenda and Kelly combined. He seemed to be so genuinely happy, and obviously fuck knows how it would have panned out in the long run, because we know that Dylan likes to flip-flop, but ultimately it's that unrealized potential that, you know, the tragedy of losing your loved one this violently, it's something that's not going to leave you. But I definitely think that they probably would have been the best couple, because she seemed to be the best suited for him, kind of like a combination of both Brenda and Kelly's traits. But if I had to pick, like I said, I think that both Brenda and Kelly have arguments for Dylan, but at the same time, I'm almost like, you know what? If Dylan is not developing as a character, even in his adult years, if he doesn't want to be a father figure to his son and whatnot, then perhaps him and Kelly deserve each other. That's what I'm saying. I can still love and root for Brenda and Dylan, but not really how we got there, if that makes sense. So I do think that ultimately them two deserve each other. And this is definitely a messy love triangle, and it's definitely the case of character assassinations and character messiness in exchange for drama and shock value and all that. And I can honestly think only of one more love triangle that pissed me off more than this one, but I will talk about that at some point in well, I don't know when. But yeah, I hope that you liked this video. Please do share your opinions and share your thoughts, who you prefer with Dylan, for Dylan, or should he end up alone? Should he end up with someone completely random? Please talk to me about this, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.